you, but they can hear you guys. Oh, there you go. Now they can hear.
All right. Uh, Hello, everyone, and welcome back to D&D&D&D&D campaign number 2 of Black Ink and Blue Blood. When we last left off, coming back into our beloved little story here, the party arrived at the Argos Republic city of Hjarmen, a backwater, out of the way town where the party was hoping to lie low, fly under the radar, and figure out what their plan of action against the Argos Republic is to be, as President Argos has been compromised and is a member of the Scar Concord, in the seemingly indentured service of Queen Wyborn, a neighboring kingdom to the west. Or to the east, sorry. Um, the party managed to establish a connection to the local rebellion, led primarily by Saurians, who, with their religion and culture being oppressed by the Dark Elves, have decided to strike out with Lady Aurora Blackmont, daughter of Evron Blackmont. Who, after her father was deposed from his seat of power, intends to reclaim it. And the Saurians are willing to help her, as, at the very least, the Blackmonts left them the hell alone, rather than the strategy of everything is ours that the Dark Elves have been taking. So, the party discovered that there would be a secret meeting in the Sunken Scale for the rebellion in 8 days, with a hurricane sweeping through the area, providing an ideal cover, as the guards' patrols would not be able to enter the Sunken Scale's walls during that time. So, with room and board accommodated, with the party officially, at least as far as the rebels know, part of the rebellion, the party spent a few days in town, finally getting a chance to rest and recoup from their very busy past few months. Um, Gil found himself accosted and laid by 3 dark elves. Um, Everyone went shopping, took a look at some of the local fare, and uh, almost apropos, the 8 days are up. Uh, Most of the party is already at the Sunken Scale at this time, but there is one elvish barbarian unaccounted for. Gil,
Yes.
you wake up with a startle as a loud crash of thunder almost rattles the walls of the guards' barracks that you've been staying in. Um, you hear the pouring of rain outside the walls, and several things run through your head in rapid succession. Oh shit, enough time has passed. It's time for the meeting. Oh shit, that means a hurricane's outside. Getting back's going to be a pain in the ass. My pelvis hurts. I'm very thirsty. Um, the 3 dark elf women still seem to be asleep around you, with the exception of one who, as you wake up, simply stares at you and smirks a bit as you seem to kind of quickly panic and as these many thoughts run through your head. So, Gil, in the barracks of Hjarman, knowing that the meeting of the rebellion is going to start soon and it's going to get harder and harder by the minute to get there, what would you like to do?
Um, so he's going to try to get up.
Got the jello legs going.
Sorry, trying not to wake the other 2 up.
You are able to get up, although between your dehydration and your weakened, exhausted muscles, it's a bit of a task, but you do manage it.
Since his quota time is over, he's going to get dressed.
All right.
And then say, "It has been fun. I have to go."
Au revoir.
And he's just gonna turn red. and just go.
Gathering your belongings, you quickly make your way outside, and it is a downpour. Another bright, blinding flash of lightning and a of thunder echoes around the town. The streets are, as the rebels predicted, completely deserted. And flooding rapidly. Already, immediately in front of the barracks, you see that you're already up to about ankle deep of water, and some parts of the town are already getting up to shin deep. So you figure you can make it. You're just gonna have to be fast.
Can he be fast? I don't think he can be fast right now.
you can trudge.
I have to start walking that way. Like,
All right. Meanwhile, as Gil starts sloshing and trudging their way through rainwater and shame, those of you in the sunken scale, all of you are similarly awoken by the bright flashes outside your windows and the deafening crashes of the cacophonous thunder. You all know that more than likely the rebels are already gathering downstairs. That being said, what would those of you already at the sunken scale like to do? Pretty much anyone who's not Gil.
Well, so since that I've probably been up a while reading, of course. So Caro,
Yes.
Caro, are you alive? Okay, good. So I've been reading a lot,
Yes.
like a lot. I think I may have found something, but I want to talk about it after the meeting with those people that we had the meeting with, like now. Do you think that after the meeting we can like gather everybody up in the room and I could share what I have found?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, because like it's very important. It's about the ichor bees. So like, it's very important.
Are we like in a room
Fuck
right
you,
now?
Zephyr. Yeah, me and Raccoon are sharing.
Kara's gonna stretch, get up and stretch, and just I need I need to go get some water.
Well, it looks like it's raining outside. Maybe you could like, I don't know, stand in the rain. We also have a bathtub.
I will take a bath later.
Yeah, when Nona used to tell us the stories that if you took a bath while it was storming, like you could get like electrocuted. Although research shows that is not necessarily true. I think that she was just trying to scare us.
Well, it does. As long as you're not outside, I guess.
I used to like to play in the rain a lot. Let's get downstairs so we can, get to this meeting.
Caro, are you content with that?
Yeah, she was already heading towards the door.
Okay. Just correct me if I'm wrong. I believe this room's arrangements were Lucian, Raccoon, and Caro, Zephyr and Caleb, and Neon and Gil. Yes.
I think so.
Okay. Okay, just want to make sure. In that case, to Bajer Boys, as the two of you are also woken up by the din of thunder and storm outside, what are the two of you doing?
I guess Caleb's just gonna get ready for the whole rebel thing. Like, I don't think he really has anything in particular to do.
Okay. Yeah, it goes without saying. Why wouldn't you steal from these people?
Calls for it. Pockets. Man, it's
Oh,
kind of far.
All right. And Neon. For the past several days, Gil has not been back to the sunken scale. Um, uh, but so, as you pretty much have come to expect at this point, when you wake up, you're alone. What would you like to do?
I would like to go retrieve Morrigan from the stables.
All right. So, as you all start to make your way downstairs, Lucy and Caro and Raccoon, Zephyr and Caleb, and then finally Neon. As you all enter the bar area of the sunken scale, you see the tavern is quite crowded. Not just in the form of the usual tavern goers that you've come to expect. You see, at least at a glance, no dark elves. Again, at least not like at a cursory skim of the room. Seeming to be mostly goblins, saurians, and Caro, you even spot a few Lovelanders standing very small and squat, as the book of Yavik Lovelanders had described. Trot sits at the bar and gives you all a very quiet, almost subtle and unspoken nod as you all begin to come downstairs. And Neon, as you pass by to head towards the door, Trot walks over and kind of leaning down to you as you walk under the bar. You're heading to grab your machine, I imagine?
That's right.
Your big friend with the tattoos hasn't been back in a while. If you see him out there, make sure he gets back. It's getting pretty bad out there. And watch where you step in the fields.
Neon goes to walk and then is like, why?
Because it's raining and the puddles can be deceptively deep. You know how it is.
I suppose I do. Fair enough. Thanks for the heads up.
Of course. Get back safe. We won't start until you and your friend are back.
Fine.
All right. And in that case, since Gil will take a moment to reach the sunken scale and Neon is heading out to meet them halfway and grab Morgan, those of you who have already come downstairs, what would you like to do?
do I see Aurora?
Make a perception check.
Natural 20.
You kind of
That's
on the
Aurora.
sly, not trying to make a big scene, you take a careful look around the room, and you do not see Aurora. However, you do spot a few things that do catch your attention. You had missed them in your initial skim of the room, but you do see a couple dark elves, keeping to the back and mostly sitting together. They don't seem ill at ease or out of place, but it does, surprise you to see dark elves among what seems to be the rebellion. They appear to be mostly young and, at a quick glance, all male. And another thing you notice, although you still do not see Aurora, is all of you do notice when you come downstairs a kind of odd smell in the room. It's not too dissimilar to the usual smells of the Sunken Scale, so you hadn't immediately factored it in, but Lucian, you do start to catch it. You can smell essentially the smell of a barn. And as you take a careful look around the room, you start to see why. Several people in this tavern are quietly seeming to be almost smuggling small dragons. You see one of the dark elf boys with one of those small, fat, colorful flying dragons you had seen in Death Nest Valley, the same one Zephyr had seen flying in the trees. You see a Saurian feeding a small trio of those small pigeon-sized dragons that had harassed you in the Dark Elf Church leading here. What few people still have personal dragons seem to have snuck them into the meeting and are quietly feeding them or taking care of them. All of this is very subtle and on the sly. And you imagine if you weren't looking for it and didn't know what you were looking at, you may very well miss a lot of this at a glance.
With that information, I'd actually like to go over to the Dark Elves.
Okay. While Lucian does that, Caro, what are you doing?
Kara is getting a drink of water. First and foremost, feeling like a shriveled raisin.
Oh, you gotta go potty.
Zephyr and Caleb, what are the two
I
of you
think
doing?
Bella has to go potty.
Caleb is just going to look around at all the different people to take note.
Okay. And Zephyr, what are you doing?
Guess I will.
All right. Okay. So, Zephyr and Caleb, the two of you take spots at your usual table, Raccoon joining you shortly after. Caleb carefully scanning the room. Zephyr, pouring yourself a drink of water, content to not rely on these rebels who you're hesitant to trust. Raccoon kind of awkwardly drums their hands on the table, trying to stay in good spirits, but seeming a little on edge at the somewhat noticeable tension in the room. Caro, you're making your way to the bar, and Lucian making your way over to the Dark Elves. Neon.
Yeah.
As you exit the Sunken Scale and the door shuts behind you, almost slamming in the harsh wind billowing, your ears are kind of billowed. And yeah, the streets are very rapidly beginning to flood, and you don't see anyone in sight. Guards, townspeople. It seems like most people are either sheltering in their homes or at the Sunken Scale. But thankfully, it does look like it's still traversable, although you'll have to be quick. And as you take a look at your surroundings before making your way towards the fields, you see a large lumbering figure stumbling their way through the streets towards the Sunken Scale. With a bit of squinting, you see the massive, bedraggled form of Gil, soaked to the bone, looking exhausted, covered in several bruises and lacerations, making his way towards you. It doesn't seem like he's been in a fight. It more looks like he's recovering from one he had gotten in a few days ago.
I'm tempted to ask what happened to you.
Gil, as you're stumbling, Neon approaches you and pipes up with that as you kind of look down at them.
You don't want to
No.
know.
Yeah, I figured. Well, they're looking for you in there.
Yes, I figured.
And with that, I will continue on my way.
This is
Okay.
awkward.
The two of you walk in opposite directions. Gil heading towards the sunken scale. Neon, you start making your way across the streets, out of the town, across the field, and start making your way towards the stable.
Over the rainbow.
Yeah. As the rain pours, and sure enough, as Trot had warned you, there are several deep, patchy puddles. And from a quick glance at them, as you thankfully are able to avoid the worst of them, you get the impression that, yeah, if you weren't careful, you probably could, like, trip and face plant and soak yourself even further. And as you make your way to the stable, the first thing you notice is that it's silent. No sound of panicking creatures. And as you get even closer, you don't see any either. None of those odd wyvernous dragons that had been clamoring on the rooftop of the stable. You don't even see any of the stable hands present. But as you peek your head inside the stable, where it's thankfully drier, you see Morrigan. Cleaner than when you had left it. It looks like they got all of that glowing insect residue off of her. Although they did appear to leave the ones that you deliberately patterned, but just getting some of the leftover residue that didn't come out as good. Morgan is otherwise sparkly clean outside of your improvised bug graffiti. And tied to one of Morgan's legs is a small handwritten note written in Undercommon, which I believe you speak. That simply says, "Cleaned her up for you. Be careful out in the rain."
I find it strange that they knew that I was going to be here, but okay. I will take Morrigan and be on my way.
All right. Clambering inside of Morgan, her insides have a very refreshing new car smell. um, and looking around for the source, you actually see what appears to be a small potted flower left on the dashboard.
Well, that's oddly nice of them.
But taking a careful look around, nothing else at a glance appears to have been fiddled with, and you start piloting her back, making your way back to the sunken scale. This time a little faster, as Morgan can trudge through the puddles and wet field a bit faster than you yourself can. Gil, as you open the doors of the sunken scale, where it's thankfully dry and you're not having to fight to see and hear over the howling winds and blinding rains. Taking a glance around, you see Caro sitting at the bar, Zephyr, Caleb, and Raccoon sitting at your usual table, and Lucian kind of edging her way through the crowd towards the back of the inn. As you enter the sunken scale, Gil, what would you like to do?
I'm heading towards the bar.
One more time, sorry.
I'm going to the bar.
All right. As you approach and hop up on one of the bar stools, Trot approaches you, seeming nervous but relieved, and gives you a nod. You had me going there whenever you disappeared on all of us. Was worried the Argosians had gotten to you.
Yeah.
You can say that.
Well, if this is what you look like, I hate to see the other one.
That they look a lot better than me.
Well, the important thing is that you're safe. And he kind of looks you up and down for a moment and squints before giving a simple nod. Whether he knows or has come to his own conclusion, you can't really tell at a glance.
I will let him have his own thoughts.
Yeah. Lucian, as you start making your way, you approach the table of dark elves, who look up to you with polite smiles as you approach.
Do you mind if I sit with you?
Not at all, miss.
All right, I will take a seat. I wasn't really expecting to see other elves here. This is very refreshing.
Well, let it not be said that we're all that bad. Few of us are on your side. Promise.
I insight check that.
Roll an insight check.
Suspicious squinting from the player. Insight. Okay. 20, dirty 20.
You look them up and down. They seem like they're being genuine. Another dark elf. Oh.
You go ahead. You go ahead.
Another dark elf pipes up as you look the first one over. This one, a lot taller, a little on the bony side, and wearing a thick pair of gloves and a coat, presumably to protect them from the rain getting here. They also appear to have a matching hat that is currently laid a bit on the wet side on the table in front of him. And as he looks you up and down, you see their face is very pale and sporting several scars, especially you notice around the mouth. He gives you a simple nod, and people like us have nothing to lose and everything to gain if your people can truly get Argos out of power.
I haven't had people about how they feel about her.
One more time.
Sorry, did you hear anything I said?
Did not.
You're cutting out in.
Oh, sorry. I really haven't had the chance to talk, to anybody here about how they feel about her. Nor have I had any other chance to talk to, other residents here in Aragos. What makes you feel like there needs to be a change?
How long have you been here?
A few days.
He points to his face, drawing attention to the scars around his mouth. You know how this happened to me?
I shake my head no.
My mate, my wife, she found out that I had been practicing magics in my free time. I have something of a natural proclivity for spellcasting, but when she found out, she said that I was to stop. that was woman's work, and that a man could never cast spells quite as well, nor as fittingly. And when she caught me again, she decided to leave a permanent reminder of my place. I went to the guards after I was attacked, and they threw me in prison.
For practicing magic?
They said that I had, and he does air quotes, hysteria, and I had to be put away for my wife's safety.
Oh.
But I understood
So-
the message for what it truly was.
Is this how all of you feel, or and what was that?
The message was, your kind isn't welcome here. And if they are, they have specific places they're meant to be, seen and not heard. And
Your
I can-
kind, you meaning men?
yes. And as for how everyone else feels, and at this point, the first one you had spoken to pipes up, seeming a little on the jittery side. We can at least safely say that it's, yeah, like you said, how all the men are feeling. After all, we saw what it was like for the lizards down here when we first arrived. I mean, you know, it's not perfect, but everyone was equal. Everyone was the same, no matter what you were, no matter what you looked like. And, well, let's just say seeing that and then having to go back to normal is, it's not easy.
Caleb able to hear all this?
I'll say make a perception check
Yeah.
with advantage because you were actively keeping an eye on your surroundings.
Alright, a what check?
Perception with advantage.
Perception with advantage. Okay, Caleb is good at perception.
Lucian will kind of tilt her head to the side. You know, it's interesting. You know, I've heard about, you know, this empire and, you know, how they, you know, view women. And, you know, at first it was pretty cool, you know, like, but then I thought otherwise.
Gotta do a bit of math.
And I didn't like how they were treating
16
I
in
didn't
total.
like how they were treating
Got
my
it.
friend. Like, I didn't like how they were treating my friends, and you know, and I didn't like seeing all of that. But here's the thing: in most countries, you know, anywhere really, well, most places, it's the other way around. Women are the ones that feel, you know, repressed. So I can understand only to a certain degree because, you know, I never had those issues before. However, I can sympathize. I see how it affects everybody, and I can see how much it hurts, and I don't think that it should be that way. But I also don't think that it should be, you know, utopian, because, you know, there's something always wrong with a utopian society.
Well, like I said, there was problems, sure, but everyone always seek what benefits them the most. And
Everybody
Caleb,
is equal. You mean.
as you kind of idly trace Lucian's path, you are able to catch snippets of the conversation as Lucian, as per the norm, is not particularly quiet. And while the rebels are a little more on the quiet side, they, among their own, don't seem particularly scared of expressing their thoughts. It's just that some of
Just
them.
with that story the guy told.
Yes, you have to strain a little bit to hear it, but you are able to catch the bulk of the story.
Caleb's gonna head over there and he's gonna be like, man, I thought it was bad, but I didn't realize it was that bad. I guess I found a particularly patient guard to piss off.
Well, you
Uh,
are also a child, Caleb.
Indeed, you would not have received such tender mercies had you been a few years older. Although it is possible indeed that they had simply been patient with you. But he kind of looks you up and down. I am not an expert on humans, but I believe you are still a youngling by their standards, yes?
I would say by most standards, yes.
Then yes, more than likely you were granted mercy that someone like me would not have received.
Honestly,
But
from what I saw of the guards in the first city we were here, I honestly kind of wish she took a shot at me. It would have been fun seeing the look on her face being cut down.
mm, unfortunately, it's not that easy. Although I've heard rumor circulating that you and your group of friends are on the strong side. Perhaps you are exactly the weapon we need. The younger one that Lucian had initially approached gives a somewhat jittery nod to you, Caleb, and seeming more in response to what you had said first when you arrived at the table. Yarman's a bit of the worst about that sort of thing. I'd say the only place worse is the capital, but even then, at least they let you know where you stand and make it pretty clear what you can and can't do. Around here, it's more of a thing of whatever the women say goes.
From what I hear, that's
Well,
how.
I think that
I've
just
heard.
has to. Do you think that's just because of the location?
And Caleb, what were you going to say?
Caleb was going to say, from what I understand, there's all everywhere has some people above another.
Indeed, sadly. The younger one gives a somewhat tense nod and glances to you, Lucian. I don't know. I'd say if I had to take a guess, but the scarred one holds up a hand and talks for him. The capital is not just the head of the country, it is the head of the clergy. And it is through the Dark Elves' worship that they believe they are superior. And thus, the home of that belief is most prone to being the most strict on it. And out here in Hjarnman, it's harder to enforce laws of basic humanity and decency. The guards here aren't necessarily required to treat us well, just keep the peace.
So Caleb's gonna kind of think of like his home if they were ever had like the reverse issue. Because they are bandits. I feel like a bandit society would be more based on.
Yes, where you come from, you've never particularly known gender discrimination. Really, discrimination of pretty much any sort. The most you've encountered, even then you didn't experience it, it more just popped up indirectly through other people you knew in your life, was some level of mistrust for us, for half-breed creatures. Not like half-elves and half-orcs, but things like Pietro, very visibly mutated by split genetics. But yeah, as you said, with Tebedra being as utilitarian as it is, you know, they're not exactly in a position to be judgmental about who's helping them.
Yeah, Caleb's just gonna say, it's a shame it's not like my home. My home, I never knew this issue going either way. My own parent, my own actual parent, work together all the time, equally.
Mm. Well, as you and your friend said, there's always an issue if you know where to look. We're not looking to build a utopia here, but Lady Blackmont is at the very least content to return this land to its original owners, and the men and I suspect that under their leadership we would be treated better, so we are content to help them.
But I'd imagine
You,
that that would be the case, especially because you helped them.
you sus- suspect, but you do not know.
Well, think of it this way. We can keep it the way it is, where we know we don't benefit from it, or we can roll the dice, so to speak. And besides, maybe it's just me being a bit on the biased side, but they seem like perfectly nice people. I don't see any reason that they deserve any of this, you know? It's
No,
not their
I
land. We just came in and
absolutely
started
agree.
building churches like we own the
When
place.
I was a child, no.
By the way, I think that was
Well,
the first roll Caleb has done in
Hopefully,
5 sessions.
Yeah, it's been a lot of role play and build up.
I hope that maybe things can change for you. And
We can only hope.
exactly. I will get up and if you will excuse me, I have to go and see a friend. It was good talking to Olivia.
You take care, miss.
You can just call me Lucian.
Lucian, then. And he turns his attention to you, Caleb. Not seeming angry, more just curious if you're gonna get up or if you have more to say.
Caleb, well, following Caleb will say, my name is Caleb, by the way.
The one sitting across from you, with the scars, gives a nod. A pleasure. Most of our names are difficult to pronounce in the common tongue, so for the sake of convenience for your throat, you may call me Fico. And
It's a pleasure to meet you, Fico.
And the one sitting closer to you, the younger, more jittery-looking one, holds out an enthusiastic hand to you, Caleb, with a smile. Pleasure to meet you, Caleb. Just call me Jerry. That's close enough.
Caleb
Listen, I will
say,
look for Jerry.
Caleb will also say, what language do Dark Elves speak? Is it similar to what regular elves speak?
Most of us learn Undercommon, seeing it as a shared tongue for people underground. But it is, of course, perfectly acceptable to learn Elvish as well. Most of us are taught both growing up.
Would your name work better in that? Because I do know Elvish.
Fico tilts his head to the side and gives a bit of a shrug. Quite possibly. And he gives you a name in Elvish, which for to his credit does sound pretty similar. It's still pronounced more or less as the Elvish equivalent to Fico. However, because you know Elvish, you would know that this version of the name actually has a meaning. Specifically, it is associated with mantids, the praying mantis, and other similar insects.
Isn't the praying mantis one of those insects where the female kills the male?
That is IRL a common belief, yes. Although I believe that only happens in captivity. Or maybe I'm thinking of spiders.
Yeah, it only ever happened in captivity.
Yeah, so yeah, but yes, it's something of an urban legend. But yes, that is that is something that is said about them.
Here's the thing. I'm fairly certain Caleb would not actually know that.
Oh no, that's fair. I was more just saying for you and audience benefit. Just a little fun fact. We can play D&D and learn.
I'm learning so many things today.
I will reply in Elvish.
I thought you
Lucian's
walked away.
Yeah, you already left.
It will sound. Yeah, you walked away.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Damn it! I wanted to say something
you
cool.
said you were leaving.
I was leaving, but I wanted to say something cool.
yeah, so yes, Caleb, to your knowledge, yes, the name in Elvish invokes imagery of a fictional beast of legend, supposedly an insect that spends its life in prayer, and when given the opportunity, the female will mate to impregnate and then devour the male.
Let, let me see. Let me roll. Let me roll history, see if Caleb would actually know this story. You think I should roll it with disadvantage?
I'll actually say roll it with advantage because it's a fairly common legend, all things considered. Um, uh, and we've established that your parents were the type to tell you quite a few stories. So
Okay. Let me see. His history is +5, so it's going to be 21.
yes, you are familiar with the story of the mantis. You're fairly certain it's not a real creature, but yes, you have heard the story.
Caleb was just like, how ironic.
My parents had something of a sense of irony. All right. Neon, at about this time, you arrive at the sunken scale. Morgan will not be able to fit inside, but you can park it outside if you wish.
Oh, no. Morgan can fit inside. I'm just gonna knock down some wall. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah, do some redecorating.
Yeah, that's what I was going to
You know,
say. He's going to redecorate.
This place needs some fresh
Needs
air.
some feng shui.
Yeah, feng shui, some natural light would really do this place some good. Come on, let's take a minute. No, yeah, I'll leave Morgan outside and head back in for now.
All right. Okay.
Aw.
All right. Leaving Morgan parked outside, you re-enter. Caro and Gil, having both been served at the bar. Caleb, sitting in conversation with the Dark Elves, being relatively comfortable having some men who can relate to your experience to talk to, and they all seem relatively nice, if in FICO's case a little on the quiet side. Lucian, did you have any last things you wanted to do before the meeting begins?
I wanted to, as I passed by their table, because I don't think I saw Gil yet. Before I leave, I'll just be like, Caleb, when the meeting is over, come to my room. We're all going to have a meeting. And then I will go, and as I pass by, I will say the same thing to Raccoon and I guess Zephyr if he's listening.
Right.
And is Caro there too?
Yeah, Caro and Gil are at the bar.
Okay, I will go to the bar and sit next to Gil. Well, you look rough. What? No witty comeback?
Leave me alone.
Are you okay? Are you feeling okay? Does he look okay?
Make a medicine check.
Okay. Okay, let me bring up my stats. Medicine, I'm proficient. Okay. 21.
Looking him over, he has quite a few bruises and cuts, but doesn't seem like anything serious. More just superficial. And from how wobbly he's sitting, you suspect he might have sprained something. So at the worst, it basically looks like he just took a really rough tumble down a hill. It doesn't look like he's seriously hurt. Although from the exhausted, deadened look in his eyes, you imagine it was something a bit more physically exhausting than a simple tumble.
So, did you fall or were you pushed? His face.
a bit of both.
How can it be both? Yeah?
I don't want to talk about it, okay?
Why? What did you do?
Nothing. Leave me alone.
You are such a liar.
Did you roll insight for
Yeah.
that?
Ew,
is
I'll poke
something.
you on one of your bruises. I don't act it. I'll poke you on one of your bruises if you don't tell me. One. I'll pull out my finger.
He ain't breaking.
Two. I'll get closer to his like rib where like there's a big honking bruise. 2.5.
Can Caleb see this unfolding?
He's wearing a coat.
Yeah, I'll say easy enough to do. They're not
Jab.
exactly quiet. Yes, you see Lucian seemingly pestering Gil, who's just, to his credit, sitting quietly and not engaging.
Caleb is just gonna be like, why do you need to pester him?
He was obviously in a fight, and he needs to tell us who he got in a fight with so I can, comb it over.
Caleb,
you
did Caleb
gonna
know about the whole
Tell
arm
me who
wrestle
you
thing?
fought with?
I think you saw him. Yeah, I believe you saw him get challenged, but you didn't see the results.
Last I saw Gil, he got into some kind of challenge with one of the guards. So if he got into a fight, it was probably with one of them.
Oh no. Oh god. Gil, what part of laying low do you not understand? Do we have to I can say it in Elvish if it's easier for you.
And he's going to say this perfectly clear. Well, I laid as low as possibly could be.
Okay. Hang on.
Got him.
Hang on. I need to roll. I'm gonna roll intelligence to see if I can understand his, euphemism.
Can Caleb roll
A field you have no knowledge about.
Yeah, no, I rolled a natural 5,
Hey,
plus
she
4,
might have
so
read
that's
medical
9.
textbooks.
So no.
Let me see. What
She
Where's
just
my
kind of looks at you like,
+2 to intelligence? I want to see if Caleb would get it.
I don't understand.
Okay.
And leave me alone.
I would have a.
Wisdom? Okay, let's try that.
No.
Let's see.
I didn't say roll. Austin was just pointing it out.
You already rolled.
Okay. If it's intelligence,
It's
then I have
worse.
a- if
It's
it's
worse. 8.
if it's intelligence, then Caleb has a 21. If it's wisdom, he has a 20.
Caleb, you understand what Gil is getting at. Lucian, you do not.
Caleb is like, oh,
I'm not going. Wait,
interesting. I was not
What?
expecting
am
that.
I missing a social cue?
Very
Am
much
I
so.
missing a social cue? I don't like this. Tell me what to do.
Hey, Caleb is going to look at Lucy and he's just gonna he's gonna like do that motion where it flies over your head with his hand.
No. About this time, Neon, you
You
enter
know
the
I
sunken
do
scale.
like knowing.
Oh, joy, walking
You
into
know how
another
much I do not
argument.
like
Yeah,
Caleb,
knowing things,
Caleb
Caleb.
is just going to
Tell me.
say, Caleb is just going to say, I'll tell you when you're older.
Ooh.
Older than you!
to be fair, he didn't say
like,
when you're older than him, just when you're older in general.
Yeah, when you've reached your third
I'm
millennium.
also older than Lucifer by 3 minutes. Do not forget that. Ever.
But
No
where's
matter what he tells you.
Lucifer coming in?
Yeah, exactly.
She's the I get it. It's older sibling superiority.
It is.
All right.
It is. It is.
Yep, Neon, you enter to see Lucian in a seeming somewhat flustered argument with a relatively quiet and keeping to himself Gil, who you already saw the rough state he was in, Caleb, who seems delighted by something, and Zephyr and Raccoon sitting at the group's usual table, and Kero sitting next to Gil, just seeming like they're intent on staying out of the argument.
I would like to pipe up. I would like to pipe up and say, if this is about his injuries, it's because I accidentally stepped on him with Morrigan on the way back. My bad.
Fucking bro Neon.
Caleb didn't
Lucian
reveal
walked
what he
over
knew.
to Neon. I wonder if I believe him. I'm gonna roll an insight check.
Yeah, hey, he was like, bro Neon. I was like, hey, Caleb, once he realized what was going on, kept
Oh,
his
that's
mouth
fair.
shut.
Yeah, that's fair. Also, Neon, roll me a deception. Lucian, roll insight.
Deception. I'm okay at deception. I've been deceiving myself into thinking that I'm happy
Decapitation.
all these years.
Roll for decapitation.
Alright, I got mine.
I got a dirty 20.
A dirty 20.
I also got a dirty 20.
All right, roll again.
No, wait, hold on.
Gotta break the tie.
Yeah, I have a thing. In the meantime, everyone who's not involved in the argument, Caro, Zephyr, do you have anything you'd like to do before the meeting gets underway?
Gonna go to the table with or go see the other Lovelanders. Like,
Okay.
yep, they sure are arguing. Let me just leave.
Yeah, I'm out of here. Do you want to specifically engage with them or just sit with them?
I want to engage with them.
Okay.
I am here.
I wonder what the ritual greeting of Lovelanders is.
Loud.
Wow. They
Sorry
just
about
bark
that.
at each other.
All right, so you do want to engage with them, or are you just sitting?
I do want to engage with them.
Okay, and Zephyr, what are you doing?
No, I shouldn't.
Good way of thinking. And I will say, Lucian, you suspect Neon may be lying. I mean, Neon's not exactly the type to be careless, but you also know Neon's been drinking pretty heavily the past few days. Gil seems pretty insistent on not telling you, and it seems like Caleb knows what happened, but also is clammed up about it. So there is an inkling of doubt, but at the same time, you don't have any alternatives, and it does make sense given the circumstances that Neon may have been drunk, crushed Gil by mistake, and Caleb witnessed it. That does make sense in your head, although you're a little uncertain.
A little unsteady.
It's kind of like suspiciously squint at Neon. So you're telling me from the time that Gil disappeared to now, you somehow magically found him, stepped on him, then exited your machine to come in here. All the while
Yes.
Caleb watched.
That is
He
exactly what I'm
stepped on
telling
me
you.
3 days.
I used my eyes and my ears, I suppose. It's not exactly that hard.
How much have you been drinking?
Wouldn't you like to know? How about you mind your own business?
I would like to know. That's why I'm asking.
But I don't care to tell you, so let's leave it
No.
at that. Hmm?
Ugh. Fine, just come to my room when the meeting is done. I have some stuff to tell you that I read. Come, don't come, I don't care.
Fine.
Alright.
Fine.
I cannot believe this song popped into my head again. Like, this is like a song I haven't heard in forever.
Kara, as you approach the Lovelanders, you see that they appear to be family. You see a mother and father, both as you expected, appearing to be the smaller but more quick and notably poisonous Lovelanders. The mother is a ebony black-skinned Lovelander with bright tropical green spots. The father appears to be a more thickly built, like almost toad-like Lovelander, with a tropical blue coloration, but still with the like core of like ebony. And both of their children appear to have taken after the father with blue skin.
Good poison dart for
Yes, exactly.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, thank you.
So yeah, so Carol will approach them and just just hello.
The all four of them smile at you brightly. The mother giving you a nod, hello. The father giving you a kind of somewhat gruffer nod, hello. The older looking son of the two, hello. And finally the youngest piping up, hello.
Oh, babies.
Oh my god! They're all
Looking them over,
Goodbye,
Carol,
I am gone.
the youngest appears to be quite young. Like that you still see a visible tail. The older son appears to have grown up quite a bit more, seeming more or less to be an adult by Lovelander standards. The father, despite his more toad-like physique, is unarmed. And the mother, you notice, is a little more heavily armored and is carrying a sword at their side.
Well, I mean, that's probably all they're allowed to do. Yes, yes. I had not seen any Lovelanders yet, until now, in this region.
Oh, the mother pipes up with a smile. Oh, well, we haven't seen quite so many ourselves. It's nice to see one around these parts. Gets a little lonely in the swamps, you know. Oh, but you're very large, aren't you?
Yes, yes. I am
And-
from Perugia.
Oh, the parents and kids all look to each other. And the father looks to the youngest little tadpole of the family, and you see that, son? That's how big you'll get if you eat your greens. Yes, Papa.
Aren't frogs carnivorous?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say that. Yes, yes, the stapled greens, like grasshopper.
Yeah, I was
and
gonna say
mantis.
grasshoppers.
Lizards.
Lizards too.
Yeah, that is true. Like, considering that they're kind of really big frogs, they probably eat
Mhm.
more than just bugs.
Yeah, or just big bugs.
Maybe the occasional bird.
Is there anything we can help you with, miss? I mean, basically,
I just wanted to
Evan
talk.
would have something to say about that.
probably. But, what would you say, Kara?
Just wanted to talk.
Well, you're free to sit at our table. Remember, your man, there's kids. They both give a nod. Yes, mama. Yes, mama.
Kuro gives a big froggy smile. uh, does the little like fucking shit. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. The little I'm thinking of the animation that the character from the frog character from Chrono Trigger does whenever he's all happy.
Oh, the little hoppies.
No, he doesn't do hoppy. He basically looks at the screen and you can visibly see his little neck bulb.
His neck croaks.
Yeah.
Later, he inflates like a balloon.
Yes, yeah, he does a little happy inflate and deflate. Long-winded way of saying that's basically what Karo's doing.
What's up? Like in the tavern or like among this family? Are you looking for valuables? Like, are you looking for anything in specific?
I mean, valuables. Or just
So you want to see who in the tavern is armed?
valuable. Something
All right, so
lost.
all right, so weapons and valuables. Got it. Make me a perception check. Looking around, you see quite a few people are carrying weapons. In fact, to your surprise, the closer you look, you can actually see several laser pistols and rifles being slung either in holsters or over the backs of some of the rebels. You do notice it appears to be mostly women that are armed. You see a few also carrying relatively simple-looking swords. The Saurians, you notice, are carrying these swords that are curved, almost like a scimitar, but at this really sharp angle. And you notice Trot carrying over his shoulder a crossbow, and in his hand, as he kind of scours the tavern, a blade similar to that one, but rather than one or even two, it has three curves to it, almost looking like this like scimitar trident of blades, which looks pretty nasty to get hit by. And you do notice kind of scouring where some of the people are smuggling dragon pets. You do notice the dark elves that Caleb and Lucian have been talking to. The youngest one, whose name you did not get, but you all know it as Jerry, is kind of rolling something between his boots. But Zephyr, as you kind of squint, you see it is a keg of gunpowder. Other than that, you don't see too much. So you see these kind of exotic blades being carried by the Saurians, relatively simple gear being carried by everyone else, with the exception of laser rifles and pistols on some people's persons, and Trot, in addition to his crossbow, having this triple-bladed scimitar. In terms of valuables, you actually don't see too much in the way of valuables. These people don't exactly strike you as wealthy. You do notice a few people wearing jewelry, seeming decently nice at the very least, but other than the occasional brooch or bracelet that appears to be somewhat valuable, you don't see too much, not even a gold coin.
Assumption.
Either is possible.
Eh. But
Okay. And Caro, anything left with the Lovelanders?
Hmm. So Kara's gonna like actually ask about why the mother is the only one who has armaments. Just how come you're the only one that is carrying weapons?
She kind of looks a bit guilty, almost ashamed, and the father speaks up, seeming like cool about it, if a bit gruff, and just, they don't let men carry weapons in this town. Not
Kara looks just alarmed.
not if you live here.
Hmm.
I'm guessing they let you all through because you're travelers, but we have been living here for a while now. So they said I was the only one who was allowed, and well, we wouldn't be much help to the rebels if I couldn't so much as wave a sword.
That is true.
Oh,
Hmm. Do you not know how to sword fight either?
I've been learning, and she's been teaching us during the day when the elves are sleeping.
Hmm. Well, if you ever want to learn how to use crossbow, I will teach you.
That will be very appreciated, miss. Thank you. I'm sorry, what did you say your name was?
My name is Carol. Oh, right. And Carol, like, looks over to, like, Garrow, who's probably still at the bar, just gestures over to him.
Garrow kind of looks up lazily, and slowly meanders their way over to you.
And this is Garrow.
I want to ride him!
Carol looks over to Garrow.
Garrow kind of like it looks just totally deadpan back at you, and without even waiting for a command, just lays down on the ground.
Yes, climb onto him.
The little tadpole boy happily jumps free from his stool, actually sending it clattering into his brother as they hop onto Garrow's back. Garrow just effortlessly lifting them up, given that they're younger than you, lighter than you, and smaller than you to begin with, and just starts like patting around the table as they give delighted giggles from their back.
no.
I've never seen a beast like that before. Is it a dragon?
No, he's from the surface.
We've never been to the surface, dear. Maybe we should go when this is all over. Are there lots of these things?
Did I see a lot of tigers or?
Make a nature check.
Wait, 1 second. What was that? I got an 8.
You didn't encounter too many. Garrow was kind of a unique case.
No, I think because they are big, they can be hunted more easily.
Oh, I see. That makes sense, doesn't it, dear? That does make sense, dear.
Yes, dear. I found Geralt when he was just baby, and he was freezing in the snow, so I
Oh, no.
saved him.
Oh, that's very good.
Pretty
No
good.
wonder. Well, no wonder you're down here helping us. You seem like such a good person.
Thank you. I like to help as much as I can.
Oh, but I'm sorry, Miss Carol, we've been so rude. And she holds out her slimy hand, which you know to be deeply poisonous, but it's a poison you're familiar with.
Landers affected by each other's poison?
Well, these are different cousin species, so maybe.
Want to find out?
Yes.
Her mute.
She gives a happy smile. My name is Paro Worthador.
Nice to meet you. And Kara will return her handshake. Or what? Yes.
I am. The husband speaks up. I am Taro Worthador.
She uses her other hand to give him the handshake.
And these are my sons. She gestures to the oldest one, Waro and Waro.
Oh.
This means Mario.
Oh, that's
Mario.
confusing at parties.
Are all of their
Oh,
names like
God.
variations of that?
Seems like it.
This one is
Like, is that just
Waluigi.
how? Is that just how Lovelanders' names are?
Maybe.
Probably.
Like,
Kara
like
looks.
is Caro's like, is like Caro's mother like, Caro? And their father is Koro.
Oh God. It's just like, how do I acknowledge your name? Not Kara, just in general with the Lovelanders. Yeah, she looks at the kids and is just like, nice to meet you too.
Hello, miss. Hello, miss. And I will say, Carol, as you shake their little hands, no, you do not feel any poison. Although whether it's an immunity or that they simply don't secrete it in the same way, you don't know. But yeah, when you shake their hand, you don't feel any weirdness.
Oh yes, but and the surface tends to be cold, so you want to be ready for that.
Well, we'll think about it. Maybe we can go there as a vacation.
Yes.
If I could ask, miss, why are you down here helping us? You seem like a good girl, don't get me wrong. Just wondering what brings you down here. The surface sounds so much nicer.
Well, that is a long story.
Well, you have to tell it to us sometime.
Yes, but the short version is that my friends and I are here, because we are traveling in the Underdark. Wait, we know it's called the Underdark, right?
Yeah, you've been told.
Yeah. From Edic.
Oh, you. She kind of looks around conspiratorially before leaning forward. Are you the one who's been bringing us the weapons?
Carol just push him.
Are you the one who is manufacturing the dangerous nerve agent?
Can I do an intelligence roll to kind of, because I assume it's, I have an assumption of who it is, but I'll do an intelligence roll.
Sure,
to
go
see.
for it. If you feel like it.
I got a nat 20. Oh yes.
Nailed it.
Yeah. I'm gonna assume they mean like the mother who's bringing the weapons in.
I will say that certainly seems like a reasonable assumption. It just occurs to you when she says this. The mother sent you here because a caravan of hers had gone missing, and from the looks of it, it was stolen by Argosian loyalists. So the thought occurs to you, if it wasn't going to the loyalists, and you see people here wielding Edict technology as weapons, and they seem to think people from Edict are bringing them gear, then yeah, that conclusion seems sound.
I'm not personally the one, but I do know who did.
Oh, you have met her?
Yes.
Is she as nice as everyone says she is?
Caro's sweating. Yes and no.
Garrow kind of rolls their eyes and gives a kind of low growl. Anything else you want to do with these Lovelanders for the time being, Carol?
No, they'll probably just chat from here.
All right. About 10 additional minutes go by. Gil, Lucian, Neon, and Caleb sitting at the bar just making casual conversation. Zephyr and Raccoon sitting at the table making small talk of their own. And Kero sitting and chatting happily with with the lovely Worthado Lovelander family. Until eventually, you all hear a whistle from the frontmost doors of the sunken scale. You see Trot planting his crossbow almost as a makeshift bar for the door of the tavern. And as everyone's attention diverts to him, he looks around at everyone, not singling you guys out, just kind of scanning the room, and just like, all right, are we about ready? There's a
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a small, somewhat awkward moment of assent. He kind of gives a bit of a grin, showing his sharp, iguana-like teeth, and just, no reason to be scared, everyone. You're all among friends. And he clacks his triple-bladed scimitar against the wall, and you all see a tall humanoid figure emerge from the hallway leading to the bathrooms, cloaked head to toe in a simple but identity hiding leather brown cloak. But as the hood gets pulled back, you all see Aurora, Miss Blackmont herself, who, as soon as she picks all of you out of the crowd, smiles. And Caro, you see a familiar, somewhat bigger than when you last saw them, silvery scaled crocodilian crawling behind her as she exits.
Kara just stands up.
The
Hello, Stan.
the small dragon shakes their head rapidly and immediately starts scuttling towards you. Everyone watching with visible delight and happiness as the creature crawls up to you, Caro, and immediately starts playfully snapping at Garrow, who shakes their head at them in turn.
Yes. I'm gonna give him pats. I'll put my gloves on so I don't poison.
Aurora approaches all of you, sitting basically, or rather standing in the center of the tavern, looking over all of you. And as her attention turns to you, Caro, to see where the little Suchomimus had gone, gives you a smile, Caro. Seems like they missed you. It wasn't easy getting them into town, but it was worth it.
Carol smiles wide at her. Just, yes, thank you.
She gives you a smile and looking over the tavern. All right, everyone. And she pulls a rolled up, a series of rolled up scrolls from a bag hoisted to her hip. And just, it's been a long journey. Longer for some of us than others. She chuckles a little bit. But I think I have exactly what we need. A way to get to her without having to fight our way through an army that outnumbers us. And a subdued but enthusiastic cheer echoes through the tavern as she nods to Zephyr, Raccoon, and Caro as she starts to approach the bar. And kind of inclines her head. What's up?
Didn't Caleb move to the bar as well?
Yeah, that's what she's looking specifically at the people who aren't sitting at it, and and inclines her head towards it as she takes a seat next to you, Caleb. As she starts to set the scrolls on the bar and everyone in the tavern starts to stand up and start to approach, she looks to you, Caleb, with a somewhat concerned but happy-looking smile. It seems like they're happy that you're safe. And are you well?
Yes, I think.
Good. I heard from Trot that you and your friends are helping us. Is that right?
I think that seems like something we are considering.
Okay. Just wanted to confirm. Zephyr, Raccoon, and Caro, do you all approach the bar at her suggestion? Okay. Raccoon will get up and start to approach. Caro, do you join her?
Rip.
All right. Caro and Zephyr staying at your tables.
No, sorry about
oh.
that. No.
Oh, yeah. What's up? So, do you you gonna join Zephyr and stay in the tavern but not at the bar, or are you gonna join Raccoon and the others at the bar alongside Aurora?
Hmm. Carol will join the others at the bar and bid her farewell for now to the other Lovelanders.
Lovelanders.
Yeah.
They give you enthusiastic thumbs up as they are starting to approach themselves, not sitting at the bar, but seeming intent on trying to get a good view.
Mhm.
So, with Gil, Neon, Lucian, and Caleb on her left, and Caro and Raccoon on her right, with Garo quickly catching up with you, Caro.
Could I
She.
say
What's up?
one thing to her?
One more time?
Lucian will Lucian will lower her voice a little bit, and you're going to let me talk to her, right?
Pardon me?
You're going to let me talk to her, right?
That's the plan.
He wants to say something.
Just hear me out.
Okay.
She sets the first of her scrolls on the counter, but does not let it unfurl yet, and turns to address everyone in the bar. And you see her looking at you, Zephyr, almost. Her expression doesn't seem hostile, more like she wants to make sure you hear what's going on, even if you don't want to be at the front and center of it. All right. For those of us who it's your first time here, welcome. Among your brothers and your kin, there is no judgment. Men are welcome among our ranks as long as you're willing to fight. Your dragons are free to follow as long as they are willing. But for those who it is your first time, I will remind you. The biggest obstacle we face in this battle is not her numbers. There is more of us than any one of us thinks in every city. We're struggling, I'll admit, to get Nyenmen on our side, but many here in Hjarmen and in Formen are already ready to join us as soon as the signal is given. We have weapons courtesy of the Mother, who has been supplying us. Cells and rifles that will far outstrip the Argosians' weaponry. We have numbers, and we have equipment. But what we don't have, or rather, what we didn't have, until these people, and she gestures to Zephyr and those sitting next to her at the bar, supplied me with it. And that was a plan. She allows the scroll to finally unfurl, and what you all sitting at the bar see is a map of the island, with several places having X's drawn over them. 4 in total, specifically. In my travels to find a way into the palace, I was not able to find a secret entrance until I spoke with a Argosian priest who turned traitor and joined us. The temples of the Saurians were not destroyed. They were leveled, yes, but there were underground systems that the Dark Elves didn't touch, left completely unremarked upon. When the invaders came, the Saurians knew that they had to prepare a defense. And if what the priest says is true, they managed to successfully create one. She turns to those of you at the bar. Our biggest obstacle is that even if we win, she might escape. She might find a way to come back, find a place to hide. And she nods to you, Lucian. If we can corner her before any battle even happens, it's possible to end this conflict without any bloodshed. I've already prepared my terms for her surrender if this plan succeeds. But that's not going to do us any good if we can't put her in a position where she feels like she must. We need to get to her without being slowed down by her soldiers. And that's where you all come in. She nods to, again, Zephyr and those of you at the bar. If the temples are visited and you manage to access the parts of them that were not destroyed by the Inquisitors, there are tunnel networks. And in those tunnel networks are keys. And she gestures to one specific one of the X's. Specifically, sorry, accessing my notes.
You don't have it memorized?
Specifically, one in the Clapjaw Desert. To all of your surprise, one not too far from the route you had taken to get here. Lucian, looking at it, you estimate you actually may have passed through that while on the way here. If the keys are gathered
While I'm looking
and brought...
at it, I'm gonna memorize it.
Yeah, of course. In the Clapjaw Desert's Temple of Rapidity, if all the keys are brought there, the tunnels below lead straight into the capital. No one will see you coming. No one will know you're there. As far as the Dark Elves are concerned, these temples are destroyed. Mere monuments to a dead religion. But that hubris is going to be her downfall. If what the priest says is true, the Saurians may have at least partially completed a tunnel into the mountain that the Dark Elves came through. And if they succeeded in that endeavor, taking that tunnel will lead you straight into her headquarters, past all of her soldiers. At worst, you may have a personal guard contingent to contend with. If you can get straight into the palace, fight through what guards are left guarding her and not the city, you'll be in a position to negotiate, and, if necessary, to fight.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, this sounds like a really good plan.
And she lowers her voice a little bit. Still speaking loud enough to be heard by you, Zephyr, but seeming a little less enthused. I'm not going to lie to any of you, especially those of you who are doing us this service. This is going to be dangerous. I tried sending some ahead to find the first temple, see if I couldn't make your job easier, and they haven't returned. And from what the priest says, the Saurians didn't want the Dark Elves finding it before we did. So, the temples are likely to be riddled with traps. It's going to be dangerous, but we, and those of us like us in the other cities, will help you in any way we can. Here's what I know so far, from what the priest was able to tell me. Assuming he's on our side and wasn't lying to me, she taps each of the 4 X's on the map in succession. Each of these temples, when they stood in their prime, were meant to represent a core tenet of Saurian religion. Specifically, restraint, she gestures to the Nightmare Mountains. Rigor, Scalder's Lake. Rivet, the Humming Highlands, not too far from Hjarman. And rapidity, the Clapjaw Desert. Supposedly, each key unlocks the tunnel network of the next. So, if you intend to help me with this, your first destination will be the Temple of Restraint in the Nightmare Mountains. Beyond that, I'm afraid there's not much I can tell you. Obviously, the Dark Elves haven't figured it out either, so you'll have to succeed where the Inquisition failed, and where all Ergosian agents have since, and where those I sent ahead of you most likely have failed.
How did you come to
Oh,
to
is
the
it-
information from this priest.
As I said when you all rescued me at the border, my original plan was to be sold to Ergos as a slave, and that would put me in a position to negotiate and, if necessary, depose her. But I also told you that that wasn't my first attempt. I managed to make it as far as the palace my first time. I was alone, but I stayed quiet and flew under the radar until I was close enough to strike. But during my capture, I met a Saurian priest who worked at these temples. From what he told me, most active worshippers and priests that didn't sell themselves over were killed. He initially took the deal thinking it would be the salvation of his people, the only thing that would save them from total extinction. But apparently, the Argosians have not been kind, and his religion is dying before his very eyes. Apparently, that's what motivated him to help me. It was thanks to him that I managed to escape the first time, and he managed to sway Argos into exiling me rather than executing me as she intended.
You're sure that this Saurian was not maybe told to tell you this?
I will acknowledge it's a possibility, but as it stands, this is the best chance we have. While we may beat Argos in a war, we may not have their numbers or their training, but we have equipment, and if nothing else, we have the loyalty of each other. But even if we were to win, that doesn't guarantee that the Saurians will be left in peace, or that my lands, when they're restored to me, will not once again be harassed. And from what you all told me on the way here, Argos herself may still pose a threat even alone.
sadly.
Do we know what kind of assets that she has?
She gives a slow nod. The numbers vary. Do you mean on her person or in total?
On her person, like, say we do successfully go through these tunnels and make it to her, you know, all going exceedingly well. What should we expect when we get there, aside from her, personal guard? What are her other assets?
Right. My first time there, she always keeps the clergy on her person. Her Capitol building is also the highest of the churches of Argos. So the clergy will be there and will likely fight to protect their sacred grounds. Inquisitors, their weapons are enchanted. If they strike you, it affects your mind as well as your body. So take caution. Beyond the clergy and the Inquisitors, she herself is a trained fighter. The Argosians have a relic, a set of chain whips that they wield in battle. From what I hear, I've never seen them demonstrated, but if the legends are to be believed, which I'm inclined to, supposedly those chains grant her abilities from another dimension, access to forces beyond what any of us can muster. I don't know what exactly that entails, but I know it means we have to be careful.
Sounds like it means that the longer she
Sounds
has,
like child play.
Caleb was like, the longer she has, the more dangerous she's going to be.
Exactly. As it stands, she's
So
young.
it may be best for her to rather be dealt with quickly and unexpectedly.
She seems a little uncertain, but gives a slow nod. I'm putting my faith in you all. The rebellion will assist you however we can. We'll fight the guards, fight the army if we must, but the alternative, the only one I could muster, if you all don't help us, which I will not force you, I will attempt to solve this puzzle myself. And assuming the priest's words are true, take all the rebels who will go with me through the tunnels, overwhelm her forces from within the capital, and with any luck, force her into position of surrender. I don't wish for her blood to be shed, for any blood to be shed if it can be avoided. But I will freely say that if it comes between her and the people of Niblada and the Baradel, then I will freely take it.
How many are you, the rebels?
Here in Hjarman and in Forman, our number is looking roughly, assuming everyone who intends to fight chooses to. There's a little over 300 of us. But if Nienmin comes through and agrees to join us at last, then that number will be bolstered to 600 easily.
And how many would she number in her forces?
She won't be able to muster all of them immediately. They're divided between the cities, whereas we would be striking in one place. But not counting the guards enforcing the law, with her inquisitors, the clergy of the church, and those soldiers within the city that would be able to muster to her defense quickly if we do not deal with her fast, I would estimate likely somewhere between 300 and 400, depending on how quick their response is.
Caleb will also say, how do you know that her soldiers will simply stop fighting if their leader is dead?
We don't. But with Ergos dead, as I said, I'm confident that the rebellion can easily depose the Dark Elves who don't surrender, and their lands will be restored, as will mine. My concern is that even if we win, if she escapes, she will not only continue to vex me and the people of this island, but all of you as well. My hope was to find a plan that could coax her into a surrender without bloodshed, or at the very least, settle it with as little as possible.
Even if she does surrender, she could rise up another army against you and your people.
I know. But
So, are the soldiers loyal to her, or are they loyal to their clergy?
the soldiers are loyal to her, but the clergy are loyal to their god first and foremost. They follow her order because soon she will take her mother's mantle as priestess of this land, and her power will be consolidated. From what whispers I've heard from Foreman, it's likely that as soon as she takes that seat, she's going to crack down even harder, and the rebellion won't stand a chance.
So, the only time
You heard of
to
any
strike is now.
reinforcements from? Indeed. Have you heard of any reinforcements from, other resources? Like, surrounding areas for allies?
I have considered the option, but bear in mind that, as your young friend observed, and she kind of pats your head, Caleb, we have a small window of time, and the time it would take them to muster their forces would likely not be enough. And besides that, my plan counts on as little of the Argosian army having time to respond as possible. If she is attacked from above and from below, that will back her army into a corner, and it's unfortunately very possible that the surface armies might chase the reinforcements down back to us. Whereas if we fight them here, they'll run upwards and away.
Caleb will also say, not to mention, if this
Concern is
Remember, Lucian, you're on a small delay.
You
Caleb
go
first.
ahead.
Okay, Caleb was going to say, also, we know that Argos, the president of Argos, is working with the Scar Concord. If she is coming to power, it must be part of their plan. And so if other armies else intervened, it could be used as a justification for the other members of the Scar Concord to intervene,
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
which could wind up turning what started as a internal conflict into a continent-spanning conflict.
Exactly. And on that topic, well observed, young Caleb, it's unfortunately very possible that your enemies have already considered such an option. I have not had contact with the surface in quite some time, but it's very likely that many of your allies are being beset upon by their own enemies. At the very least, that is what I think my father and his brother, who were both of sound strategic mind, would have done if they had been in their position. Argos knows that there is discontent among her people and is waiting until her seat of power is completely inarguable to start wiping us out. She can't act now when her power is weak and fresh, but they have to know that some would come to our aid if we asked, and it's very likely that the Western kingdoms are being stretched thin on the surface. Although I admit this is mere speculation, and I have nothing but my own judgment to consider that. But if it eases your mind, Miss Alefikir, yes, I acknowledge that I'm counting on the honor of a young, zealous girl who has tasted power and will likely want more. And I'm counting on nothing but her honor to spare us if she surrenders. But I would be content with that risk if it meant that there was a chance she could live. She's young, and it is no fault of her own, the society that brought her up, that put her into this position of power in the first place.
Yes. I just have a lot of concerns of, politics is not about honor, as you know. And I just am concerned that there will be more bloodshed than we want because of this bad.
The alternative, as your friend stated, is open warfare, which gives an even likelier chance for the conflict to get infinitely worse. But if it eases your minds, and she actually diverts her attention away from you at this to you, Zephyr. You are not my vassals, and you are not beholden to me. Even if you return me to my seat, I will be in your debt, and I would think even the people of this island. But you are not our servants. You are not our people. Not to say you are unwelcome, but to say that if you are right, if Ergos cannot be trusted to keep her word, she takes my mercy, our mercy, and runs with it, takes a mile when she was given inches, then I will not expect your help, nor want it. And I will defend this island to my dying breath if I have to. I may not be these lands' rulers,
But you see, it is not...
but they are still my people.
It is not Elagos that I am concerned. She has people whispering in her ears, giving her advice and, other things that, could very well lead to that decision. I don't think that it is her who is making these, like you said, it is no fault of her own. So what if another uprising with her is also no fault of her own?
She...
Caleb will also like to add something.
Go for it.
That does occur to me. If this is something important to the Scar Concord, it won't matter what kind of victory you achieve. They would not accept your victory. They would likely intervene no matter what happens. If this is important to them.
That's very possible, but she looks to the two of you and to the rest of the party with, for the first time since you've seen her, a kind of visibly kind of hopeless expression, and I am running short on alternatives.
I think
what
think
we
the
can
best-
do is you go ahead, Caleb.
Caleb was going to say, but I think that it is often best to deal with issues in front of you first, then deal with issues that come after.
That was my thought as well. And she kind of winces a little bit at Zephyr's call, and you can hear several of the rebels in the tavern kind of audibly start like muttering and like nodding to each other, like seeming pretty enthused by Zephyr's suggestion.
I don't think murder is something that we want to do unless, like, like the lady has said, unless it is necessary. I think that if, she could be talked to and reasoned with, I think maybe it will turn out okay. There is always, if anything, hope.
So your plan is to just hope for the best.
I mean, it's better than the alternative, which is murder.
Lucian, I was trained to murder.
Well, I have an
leaders.
idea.
Sweetheart, I don't. That is not the point. Although
And,
that you are
Please,
trained
my
for
father.
it doesn't mean that it is necessary. I'm sorry for the delay.
Obviously, my father thought that it'd be a necessary skill.
She holds a hand between the two of
I'm
you
not saying-
and looks to you, Gil. Yes?
Instead of just killing her, though I doubt she'll reason, what if, when you are reinstated as ruler, you give her a public trial, and if it is said that she is guilty, execution.
But what would she be guilty of? Everything that she has done, it is because of what she believes in. That would be completely opposite of what the rebellion is. We are here because they have taken away their rights and their religion. How could you put on somebody the stand and say the exact same thing to them and say that it is wrong?
Lucian, as you make this argument, you can hear several rebels start kind of muttering to each other.
Also, Caleb is just going to say, but some beliefs are just inherently incorrect to have.
I am not
Like
excusing
the
her
belief-
behavior. Do not
Like the
misunderstand.
belief that certain individuals are inherently less than others. I think a lot of people I know at least could agree that that is not a valid belief.
It's necessarily true because, like I said, it is depending on how the person is raised. I am not excusing the behavior in any way. However, like I said, maybe if she could be reasoned with and told that this is not the way, maybe she could be reasoned with.
People are just too far gone and cannot be reasoned with anymore.
And that is when we use the, plan B. If we cannot reason with her, if she becomes violent, we will have no choice but to defend ourselves. But what I am saying is to give her the chance to see reason, to see that she is wrong, and to see that she needs to give this land to the rightful owner. And
Caleb is
then,
also
only
going to
then
add
can I see. Go ahead.
that in the process of trying to talk to her, you will likely reveal our presence and make her known to the exact number of assailants attacking her. Also risking our possible chance of failure, and then she would then know those tunnels and would know just how deep the rebels' grip goes. You may just wind up revealing everybody and in decreasing our chance of actually succeeding. Than if we just, before she even knew what hit her.
And she had her chance.
No, you don't understand. She is a very young girl. She is very susceptible to suggestion. I really think that if I could talk to her, I could at least get her to surrender and give it to the rightful owner.
I'm just curious, how old is the
When
president?
she gives away?
You don't know exactly how old she is, although I'll say make a history check.
With disadvantage?
I'll just say flat roll. Tebedra has dealt with Ergos before, but they typically don't exactly publish the exact ages of a ruler. It's more of a birth and death date kind of thing.
Okay, with my plus
What happens when she goes back?
15 total.
Caleb, you kind of consider this as Gil and Lucian start snapping at each other. You don't know exactly how old she is, but you do know the Ergos Republic itself is incredibly young. You imagine that between that and she looked pretty young. Like, while you imagine that, of course, Elvish standards may color it slightly, she couldn't have been too much older than you, at least physically. However, I will add that that does remind you, as you think about this, of something that hasn't been brought to the table yet, that technically speaking, the Ergos Republic was just a local branch of the Thieves Guild that got enough money to purchase land. And from what you can tell, it seems like Aurora is either... You do recall Aurora mentioning it, but it hasn't been brought to the table as a potential angle yet, as something to consider.
So that her claim is invalid somehow because she just bought it?
Yeah, both that the claim is invalid, but also that basically, even if she was deposed as ruler, she would still have the Thieves Guild to fall back on. Even if she were to leave the Concord altogether, she would still always have the Thieves Guild. As far as you know, there's no record of her leaving it, just that the guild gave her the resources to purchase the Baradel and surrounding lands after Yvonne Blackmont's death, and that they took advantage of that claim to the surface land to invade the Isle of Nublata and the Underdark and start establishing the churches.
Alright, so Caleb's going to be like, also, there's another thing that we have not considered. The kingdom I'm from had done business with them before, and from what I gather, her claim to power actually came from her position. In part, her position amongst thieves. And I'm sure you all have heard of the Thieves Guild. So even
Aurora.
if she loses her army, she always has her other ally to fall on.
She, Aurora, kind of runs her hand down her head and neck, and it's true. She thinks for a moment and looks to all of you, and if it helps, I was going to give all of you, if you intend to attempt to speak with her first, the terms I hope to establish for her surrender. My hope is that in giving her a deal that doesn't completely depose her, while still restoring my lands and those of the Saurians, may coax her into accepting the deal simply because it is more favorable than nothing.
So what you're suggesting is more or less of like I don't. Amanda cannot remember the word for it, but fuck, what is the word?
It's my
Amanda
hope.
can't remember. I'm sorry.
It's my hope that, and she nods to you and Caleb. Let it be stated that your concerns are being heard, and I had thought of them. It's my hope that if she takes the deal I offer, which I will admit is something of a long shot, but if she does, that means that her blood need not be shed, but she will be in a position where if she does make further contact with her allies in the Concord, she will do it under my observation. And that means, she nods to all of you, I can help you.
What exactly are your terms?
If she accepts them without negotiation, which she nods to all of you, you're a somewhat intimidating bunch. I imagine you won't have trouble persuading her. My hope is that she'll accept these terms. She closes her eyes and starts to recite, almost like she's been like practicing it, and like is basically figuring out the exact phrasing, almost like a verbal contract. In exchange for her life and freedom, the Argos Republic will make peace with the Isle of Nublada. The Argos Republic's power will be acknowledged by the islanders. However, they will give up the city of Hjarman and Forman and return it to the Saurians, as is their land first and foremost. However, they will be allowed to keep the city of Nienman on the coast, as that's not ancestral land of the Saurians, and it is their most prosperous city with connection to the rest of the Underdark. I also intend to request that she offer repatriation to the Saurians for the reconstruction of their temples. She holds up a finger before anyone can interrupt. However, I acknowledge that that one's a long shot. She's a priestess first and foremost, and she would never accept giving money to a heretical religion. But that's the idea. My hope is, if you all, and she does air quotes, concede that term of the treaty, she may accept the others without question. The foot in the door principle.
I could think that she has more control than what she
I
actually
am
has.
seeing it.
Exactly. And if she has to operate from Nienman, that means she has two options for regrouping with her allies. Taking the mountains, which will require her going through Hjarman or Forman, which means I will see her, my people will see her, and we can tell you that she's leaving and likely to regroup with her allies. Or she has to take the Underdark Unsun Sea, find another Underdark island that leads to the surface, and escape that way. And if that's the case, then we'll see her ship leaving first and foremost, and that will buy you all much time. The Unsun Sea takes time to sail, and it's dangerous. If she even safely makes the crossing at all, it will take her much longer to regroup with her allies than simply taking the path through the mountains that you had all taken to get here.
So imagine that
Not the Star Concord.
even though you have a treaty,
Thieves Guild.
Caleb first. What'd you say?
Caleb was saying, and even though you have a treaty, I doubt that they would suddenly stop considering you a threat. They may not be willing to leave their center of control and fear that maybe your allies, that their potential enemies, get any ideas.
Of course. But my hope is that if she accepts it and you all relent, and she does air quotes again, on the term of repatriating for the temples, she may not consider it. Her life is on the line.
No. Caleb was saying that she may not sail off into oblivion because it would be her center of power.
Oh, okay, I see. I misheard you. That was my fault. She kind of catches herself and, oh, I see. Yes, a keen observation, young Caleb. And she smiles and tousles her hair again. Yes, with any luck, she may be hesitant to leave in the first place, or her people may be hesitant to see her go. After all, that's something of a bad look to have as a leader, for your people to lose a rebellion when you had them outnumbered and theoretically outgunned. You surrendered most of your lands, and then immediately sailed off, leaving your people defenseless. So, if she has any sense of dignity as a leader, any sense of decorum and honor, she won't take the bait, which, again, leaves us in the same spot. You all have one less enemy to contend with, and an ally that can report that enemy's movements if she ever sees to make them.
Well, one concern would be if the Concord would be aware of this. They may try to remove our ally.
She nods to you, but, as I said, that is my risk to contend with, not yours. Rest assured, if the Baradel comes under siege, which she gives a grin, they may have been able to buy the land, but they did that because they knew they could never take it. But if it does come to that, I will not fall to the same hubris that she did. My first move, and my last, will be to make sure a messenger gets out to let you all know what's happened. And I will fight to defend the Baradel, my father's lands, and those of these people to my dying breath. And that is my battle to fight, not yours. We are allies, but I acknowledge for some of you that doesn't make us friends. I won't pretend that I want or that you would come rushing to my aid were I to fall under attack. And that is your decision to make. And I will not begrudge you it. I just want you to know that I am on your side, and for the time being, our goals align. With any luck, you can have one of your major enemies deposed, and it will likely take some time before they can realize what's happened and mobilize. And even if they do, that's less forces for you all to contend with. If nothing else, my people and the people of the Underdark can slow them down. Give you all time to do whatever it is you intend to do up there.
You have another concern.
I acknowledge there are many. What is it?
You say that she has magical abilities.
Of some
What
sort.
if she has like a magical ability? What if she has a magical ability to, I don't know, contact her allies and they are then war?
Well,
Like a message.
well, as I said,
Exactly.
if it does come to that, it's unlikely they'd be able to fetch her without coming through us. And as I said, I'm willing to fight and die to hold the line.
As good as a plan we got.
Yeah.
Aurora considers Zephyr as the tavern again erupts in some slight, more cheerful mutterings, and even you hear the occasional giggle as you say that. And Aurora kind of frowns, and I will be honest. I would find that preferable to taking her life. I have hopes that one so young, if exposed to a better way, may be willing to change. And if she were to be rendered a non-threat, then I would accept that. Aurora, her eyebrows actually
That's like
shoot
I
up,
have some
seeming
money
surprised that Zephyr was
to
the
do.
first person to agree to her plan, and turns to the rest of you.
Well,
What I agree
I think
first.
No, sounds like I have some planning to do.
I think this plan certainly deals with the issue in front of us. Any issues that come up afterwards can be dealt with then.
She turns to you, Caro.
Yes, yes. We will win.
And finally, she turns to you, Neon.
Fine, I'm entirely thrilled.
She frowns a bit, but gives a nod and nods to the scroll still unfurled on the countertop at the sunken scale. All right. In that case, we're in agreement. The tavern erupts in cheers as she turns and takes on that commanding presence again, and you can almost see the spirit of her father guiding her as she speaks. These heroes will make the trek across the island and see if the Saurian priest's words are true. And if they are, they will gather the keys and open up the tunnels. And Ergos will be deposed, whether that be through her own will, through her body's inability to continue, or, if necessary, her blood being spilled. The Inquisition will not burn these lands, will not soil your temples any further. Your lands and those of my father, Yvron Blackmont, will be restored. And the rebels erupt in cheers as she turns to all of you again. We're on your side, and we're in agreement. Hjarman and Foreman, you have allies, and if you intend to go to Nienmen, none of the temples are there, but the city is prosperous. Perhaps you could find resources. There are some on our side there as well, although they are not as unified. There are people you can trust. Just remember the code phrase if you intend to find any like-minded individuals. As far as we know, the Inquisitors haven't picked up on it yet. And she speaks in Draconic, the same phrase that Caro, Zephyr, and Neon all remember from your first meeting. Bring them in to be judged, and let the sinners run free. Well, you can understand it, but she's giving it to those who haven't heard it yet.
Carol.
Yeah, Caro knows what it means now because you translate it, as does Neon.
Gil will try to, well, what does it mean?
The first part, which you or another rebel will say if you suspect one another of being on our side, means bring them in to be judged. And the second half is what the other person responds with if you are indeed an ally, and let the sinners run free. It's Draconic, local language, so most of the Dark Elves refuse to speak it out of principle. As far as they know, we're just singing.
Gil will try to replicate. What do you think?
She make maybe a performance check.
As he does that, I cast tongues on myself because I'm a fucking show off, and I speak it.
Can I have Caleb roll performance?
Absolutely.
He gets a +2.
21.
All right.
21.
Oh, nice. Same rolls. Both of you are actually able to replicate it pretty easily, and the rebels erupt in another round of cheers, and Aurora smiles. And indeed. All right. I will be here.
Good performance. Are we going to be able to replicate that performance?
You feel confident. At worst, you may speak it with a heavy accent, but it should still. You're confident you could say it recognizably, especially if you take the time
one
to just.
Phrase in Draconic.
Yeah, and then make sure the other person responds the correct way in Draconic. So literally remember 2 sentences and how to pronounce one of them. She gives you all a nod and just, all right. The 4 temples are in the Nightmare Mountains, Scalder's Lake, the Humming Highlands, and the Clapjaw Desert. The first one is in the mountains. She looks over the map, kind of squinting at it, and gives you all a nod. Luckily, my people do have a lead on where the Temple of Restraint in the mountains might be. It's apparently relatively easy to find if you know what you're looking for, but that makes me concerned as to how the Inquisition hasn't discovered it yet. But head to Jade Valley. Follow Killer's River to its base at the Nightmare Mountains. Supposedly there's a waterfall, and the temple lies behind it.
I commit the whole thing to memory.
You may keep the map. All the temple's locations, or where they should be, are marked. But remember, most of these temples have been collapsed, and there's nothing but ruins left in their wake. You'll have to search to find where the tunnels begin, if they're there at all. And if you succeed...
We have 2 experts on that.
She
Looking
gives.
at Zephyr and Caleb.
She
What?
smiles and basically Gil was pointing out that Zephyr and Caleb, you're both would be really good at finding these hidden tunnels if they're there.
Buzz.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, your first destination is the Temple of Restraint, Jade Valley, Killers River, Waterfall at the mountains. From there, you go to the lake next, then the highlands, then the desert. Most of the details of their worship has sadly been lost. Like I said, most of the active religious and clergy were abducted and killed in the initial Inquisition. But from what I was able to gather, restraint is what it sounds like. The ability to hold yourself back, even when the prize is in front of you. Rigor. Be consistent, be concise, and be careful. Rivet. It's about memorization. The Saurians prided themselves on remembering long family trees and all of the details. I imagine their temple dedicated to that philosophy would require a lot of memorization. And finally, rapidity. And she chuckles. I don't think I have to tell you what that would entail.
Being quick?
Indeed. But beyond that, I don't know the details, what sort of traps or monsters may lay in your path. And for all we know, Ergos is already on to us if the Saurian has sold us out, and Inquisitors might be looking for you. So be careful out there. And if you all succeed, which I have the utmost confidence, offer Ergos my terms. I can write them down if you need.
Yes, please.
She nods
You
and
could memorize them.
I did,
Fe-
but
fetches
Along for
one
my
of the
notes.
scrolls from her bag and starts to write on it. She will be spared her life and allowed her seat of power, but she will make peace with the people of Noblada and return the Baradel, Hjarmen, and Forman to their rightful owners. But she will be allowed to keep Nienman, and she will not be in prison for her crimes. You will also ask that she pay repatriation costs for the temple she destroyed in the Inquisition. But if she seems upset by that offer, revoke it, but say that the other terms are unconditional.
Well, specify. We need to specify that when you say keep the peace,
She
that
nods.
it's the general peace, not hers.
She nods. Not asking to keep the peace, make it, and keep her own barbaric laws in the city of Nienmen, where if people want to escape them, they're free to leave.
If all goes according to plan, if you think Killer's gonna look to Neon, if you think about it, it's right up your alley, Mr. Peacekeeper.
excuse
Because we'd be keeping the peace.
me. Well, yes.
Ne-
mean, like-
Neon like almost throws their head for a second, like they're stifling the urge to vomit.
Aurora looks to you, Neon, for a long moment and slowly starts to approach you. And once your attention is on her, she speaks, not seeming like she's talking directly to you, but making direct eye contact as she says this. You will all be remembered as heroes for this. You're restoring the rightful lands to so many who have had it wrongfully taken away from them. Lives that have been wrongfully taken will be remembered and memorialized. She nods and turns to the rest of the rebels. For the rest of us, we'll arm ourselves, continue to train. If we can help these people in any way, we'll move to do so. I want messengers out to Foreman and Yenman to let them know that these people are to be welcomed and are on our side. They are to be helped with anything they may need, within reason. She glances to Zephyr and Gil in particular.
I also give a dagger look to Gil.
But
What?
if my confidence and trust have not been misplaced, then with any luck, the very religion that girl sought to squash will rise up and be the very weapon that destroys her. And she speaks a final time in Draconic, saying the phrase of the rebellion. Bring them in to be judged. And the cheer goes up through the remaining rebels. And let the sinners run free!
I love this.
Is the storm still going on outside?
Yes, it is definitely still raging. You hadn't really thought about it with everything going on, but there is still the occasional flash of lightning.
Caleb
and
was just making
thunderclaps.
sure that the sound of the storm would drown out any
Yes.
noise outside.
Yeah.
He was just making sure that it's like it didn't turn out that in the middle of all of this, the storm had stopped.
Yeah, and just nobody had noticed. No, that's fair. You breathe a sigh of relief as the storm does appear to still be raging. And as another
'Cause
thunderclap.
with how loud they are being, like, it would have sucked if a guard was standing outside and heard all this commotion.
Yeah. As the cheer goes up, a thunderclap, almost as if the priests that control the weather are signaling their approval. The rebels quiet down and begin to excitedly chatter amongst themselves. From what snippets you all can capture, it's almost fantasies of what you guys will do to Ergos when you find her, like hopes of what the people will do when their freedom is returned. You even hear the occasional Saurian talking about possibly restoring the temples, even if they themselves weren't an active worshiper, just out of respect. The air is cheerful, and Aurora is all smiles as she looks to all of you and gives a bow to each and every one of you. Thank you. And as she turns to join the rebels, she approaches you at your table, Zephyr, and puts her hand on your shoulder and nods to you, and quieter this time in Draconic. Thank you.
Oh, fuck.
She smiles, and still in Draconic. I know that this wasn't your first idea, and that more than anything you'd like to leave us behind and be done with it. I'm sure that you have your practical reasons for helping me, and all of us here, but I want you to know that no matter your motivations, your help is appreciated.
He's kind of, guess, botched.
Mm-hmm.
But not. I have my own.
If we
And-
survive this, is it anything I can help you with? If something happens to you, but the plan succeeds, I will make it my life's mission to see your mission through.
Nice.
That's fair. I won't force you to speak, and I just wanted you to know that it doesn't matter to me what motivates you to do this. I'm curious, I'll admit, but your motivations are your own. I just thought someone should tell you that your help is appreciated either way.
How this?
Indeed. If it turns out that the priest was luring me into a trap, or just sending us on a wild goose chase, I won't begrudge you a decision to leave, and I will lead the rebellion the old-fashioned way if I must. She doesn't seem unnerved per se, just gives a nod. Assuming you mean taking it out on me, well, I'll say it's not much less than I would deserve.
Attacking more or less, I will do. I need to.
Well, you'll always have myself and my people on your side, but I don't think your traveling companions are going anywhere either. Oh, and speaking of, uh, she kind of shuffles a bit and gives you a nod. I know that you would rather deal with Ergos quickly and quietly, but I appreciate you proposing an alternative that could please both parties. I'll admit I was struggling, faltering to think of something. I admit I don't share my uncle's sense of pragmatism.
My parties. Practical. Crippling. Also, Concord.
She looks like more of a liability than an asset.
Kinda, yeah. Cooperative. Allies. Now, or
You're a smart man, Zephyr. I'll admit, perhaps if my father and I shared your way of thinking, well, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. But you have my thanks. And unless you say something to stop her, she kind of awkwardly shuffles a little bit before walking back towards the bar. And as one final motion on her way back to head upstairs, she gently nudges you on the shoulder, Neon.
Yeah.
She hesitates and... I know what you sacrificed to earn me my freedom and this chance to do what I came here to do. And I know I've expressed my gratitude to you, but I feel I must once more, as I see you have still not forgiven yourself. And if I can have any opportunity to help you to fix what you feel is damaged, well, she gives a kind of weak smile, and no matter what happens, no matter what you and your friends do, I meant it when I said you'd all be remembered as heroes. And if your title really meant that much to you, your ways and your code, when I am restored as ruler of the Baradel, I could always use help enforcing the laws, helping people get used to my leadership and that of the Saurian elders, as opposed to the Argosian priests. If you're interested.
I appreciate the offer. I will probably pass.
She glances to the other party members at the bar and Zephyr at the table, and then back to you. Other obligations, or you simply don't feel you're worthy?
Bit of column A, bit of column B.
She gives a sort of sad smile and pats you on the shoulder. You're a good man, Neon. You saved my life and earned me my freedom and gave me the best chance I have at restoring my father's name and honor. And I'm never going to forget that.
If you want to make it up to me, just make it worth it, alright?
She gives a smile and a chuckle. I'll certainly do my best. She gives you a nod and, not bothering you any further unless anyone stops her, gives a smile and a nod to the rest of you, and gives another round of thanks before heading upstairs and out of sight. And as the gathering of rebels continues to party and roughhouse all around you, cheerfully discussing the future and whatever it may hold, that is where we're going to end tonight's session.
I knew it.
No, I wanted to do something.
Actually, something I just
Already.
realized.
Don't.
What's that?
So we have the queen, or in this
Uh-huh.
case, the president of Argos,
Uh-huh.
flanked on either side by her bishops, protected by her knights.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is, what the fuck are the rooks? Does it sit on either side of her, out of sight of the other two?
I guess we'll find out.
I gotta know, Matthew. Was that an intentional setup
Maybe.
to have the ruler flanked by the clergy, with a bodyguard?
Quite
Yes,
possible.
we're playing a giant game of chess.
I mean, is that not politics?
Indeed.
All right, so
Given that we're playing a game of chess where instead of trying to take out the king, we're trying to take out the queen, because the person we're trying to take out is actually quite powerful.
mhm. So
Well, the queen is the most powerful piece.
That's what I said. The king is kind of... The funny thing about chess is the king is pretty weak, but is the most important piece.
mhm. All right, so very observant chess metaphor. The party has officially joined the rebellion. Aurora Blackmont, through a contact among the remaining Saurian clergy, managed to secure documents that supposedly imply that if each tunnel is visited in sequence, it opens up a network of tunnel the Saurians had built that would allow you access into the Capitol building. So rather than having to fight through every guard and soldier, you, at worst, only have to deal with the Inquisition and the clergy of the church, and Argos herself, who lies vulnerable at the center. Or as vulnerable as a supposedly reality-bending priestess can be. And, surprisingly, more and more of the party seems slowly being at least semi-on board with sparing her life, as Aurora Blackmont's offered terms of surrender seem relatively sound.
We're on board with. We're on.
Well, more because everyone seemed like, no, we shouldn't even give her that opportunity until the terms of surrender got brought up. But yes, so as the night of your 8th day in Hjarman closes, you have officially joined the rebels, and from what you've been told, your next destination is the Nightmare Mountains, a journey through the Mist Valley and into the jungle trailing Killer's River to find this supposedly open temple and the tunnels that lie beneath it. Totally didn't forget
That was
to...
like a nightmare.
Totally didn't forget to pull up the intro stuff or outro stuff. If you want to see more of my DMing, check out twitch.tv/GrameCrackers, GRAEME, crackers with a Z, for my Friday campaign, the Goldshine Investigations at 7 o'clock Central Daylight Time. One of the player characters is Aurora Blackmont's father, and her uncle for that matter. Check out our website at officiald5hub.info, down at the moment, but will be restored in the future. Check the link that's about to be posted in chat to join our official D5 Discord server if you want to hang out with us directly, and support our episodes posted on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, wherever the fuck you happen to get them from. For our audio listeners, catch us live on Tuesdays at 9:30 Central Daylight Time on twitch.tv/OddTornadoProductions, and check out Odd Tornado Productions Official on Tumblr to find links to our other works, including our Human Rogues Twitch channel at twitch.tv/Killer5. That's 5 with a PH. Don't forget it. I believe you and Zephyr will be streaming tomorrow, right?
If you're gonna be there.
Which we'll see. Either way, they stream frequently. They're very good. Check it out. And I think that's everything from me. Thanks everyone at home so much for joining us. Thanks all of you at the table so much for playing. And we will see you all next week.